Good morning, everyone. My name is Viet Cadeau, your host for today and a programs manager for the Arts Engagement Department at the Old Globe. Today is another episode of Creative View Studio, and I'm really happy to introduce Jake Millgard, one of my friends and colleagues, and a fellow teaching artist for our department. Today, he'll give you some tips that are not always talked about, actually, when you first get started as an actor, and essentially he'll teach you how to succeed before even stepping into an audition room. He's an actor, a writer, a producer, a director, the list goes on, and he has also received his MFA from the Old Globe USD Shiley graduate acting program. Some of his credits include Midsummer Night's Dream, Barefoot in the Park, I really liked that one, Measure for Measure, all of those were at the Globe. And he's also extremely proud of the web series he just finished that he wrote and starred in. It's called Pact, so keep an eye out for that. Jake, why don't you take it away?
Thanks, Vieka. Hi, I'm Jake, everybody. As Vieka said, I've been working in the business for about 15 years, and I have been in a lot of audition rooms. And I've been in an audition room as an actor. I've been there as a reader, which is someone who helps read the sides or the audition pieces that you may get. I've been in there as a director, as a producer, as a writer, and I've seen things go monumentally wrong, and I've seen things go extraordinarily right. And so I'm going to kind of give you some things that are going to help set you up to be in the latter category and not be in the very, very wrong category. When I was first leaving college, I feel like one of the things that problems I ran into is that I had all of this training. Like I could Stanislavski, I could tell you my intentions, I could break a script down, I could clown with the best of them, I knew all of my viewpoints. But when I left school, I didn't really know how to use any of that information to help get me a job. And I didn't know where resources were to help me get a job. And so we're going to talk about some of those things today. Now, when I first started off, there was a lack of focus to my career. And that's what I kind of want to start with is I feel like a lot of times you're like, I just want to act. Give me a chance to act. But putting a focus on where you want to get started as opposed to just having this like wide net cast out, you can get really lucky. But I think if you really like hone in and focus, it'll give you a place to start. And then as you kind of start your career, you can start to broaden that net a little bit. And a way to do that, and the first thing we're going to talk about is branding. I don't particularly like the word brand, but it gives a idea of what we want to do, where we want to take our focus. And so I'm going to give you guys, first off, like a homework assignment when you're all done here that's going to help you come up with what brand you want to put out there, what face you want to put out into the world. And here's what I want you to do is I want you to go ask 10 people. It's a little harder during COVID. I would tell you to go ask strangers. But once COVID's over, you can go ask strangers. Right now, you can just ask people that you know. Ask them knowing you and or just looking at you. Tell them to ask them to name 3 celebrities that you remind them of. So you can take that information and go, okay, cool. Another thing I want to do as part of this homework assignment is I want you to go and pick 10 shows that are running now or that ran in the past that you see yourself acting in. And then what I want you to do is I want you to kind of cross-reference those things and say, do these match up? Does what people see me as match up with the roles I see myself in and the roles I see myself acting in? And if they do, then you have yourself and kind of what you're putting out into the world. And I would say, great. If not, I would suggest looking at that and taking that knowledge and really using that to kind of help clarify what it is you want to be doing out there in the world. If you see yourself as a comedian, really hone in on that. Go take improv classes. Go, do sketch. I think that's a really important tool in your branding that can kind of help focus your world and, again, start to cast a broader net. I know a lot of friends who are comedians who started in the sketch and comedy world and were able to get some of those dramatic roles later because they were able to get their foot in the door doing something like that. So again, get specific about what it is you want to do and what you're really good at, and use that to kind of help focus your acting to get your foot in the door. That's the first thing, is branding. Come up with that. Amazing. The second thing I want to talk to you about is auditioning. Now, first of all, let's talk about where we find auditions. I think that was something for me, although I did get started too, where internet was, a newer thing. So everybody's much more adept at it than I was first getting started. But I want to talk about some of the online resources for getting auditions. I'll name a few and then I'll kind of talk about them. Actors Access is one of them. LA Casting, Casting Frontier, Backstage.com, Playbill.com. All of these have a lot of auditions listed. They also all, with the exception of Playbill.com, which has theater auditions listed for free, they all cost money in order to submit yourself for these auditions. So just keep that in mind, and do your research. Really, really research what kind of things you want to be doing. With LA Casting and Casting Frontier, the majority of things you'll be finding are TV, film, and commercial auditions. Playbill.com will be exclusively theater. Backstage will have both, and Actors Access will have both. I would say if you had to choose one, my recommendation for you would be to get started with Actors Access. It does cost a little bit of money, but the thing I think is really great, especially when you're first starting your career about Actors Access, is a lot of the things that get posted on there are small independent films and student films. And I think those are great places to get your foot in the door, get experience, get in front of a camera, build up your resume, and also build up material so that you can build a reel. And for those of you who don't know, a reel is like you take snippets of different film projects you've done or theater projects, acting that you've done, you put it together, edit it together into kind of this one video that kind of showcases the kind of work that you do. And I think getting in on the ground floor a lot of times with student films, there's a lot of people who have high expectations, even in the independent film world where they don't have a large budget, where they think like, I have to have a name star. College students are just trying to make their work. And so you can get in there and you never know when you may be working with the next Spielberg too. So you could be getting in on the ground floor of somebody whose career is going to take off, and you create a great relationship with them and you become one of their go-to people. I think starting off on Actors Access and doing it that way is a fantastic way to get started. So if there's one of the paid sites that I would recommend starting with, it would be that. Now, another way to find auditions, and again, this goes into doing your research, depending on what area of the country you're living in. Always look at Facebook and different Facebook groups. There are a lot of great Facebook groups out there to help you find auditions. Local people, create a group and then post the auditions that are in that local group. I know here in San Diego, there's a lot of great resources. If you live here in San Diego, Candace Casting is kind of the big film casting director in town, and a lot of times she posts when she's looking for certain types of people. She'll post the listings of those auditions, so you can always go there, Candace Casting on Facebook, and see what different projects are coming up. There's also a group that I belong to called San Diego Audition Central, and most of the auditions that come up in San Diego, they will post for theater. They'll post those, and even some like people doing local film projects, they'll post those on those different sites. Do more research. I'm sure there's more stuff out there as well that even I don't know about. So again, research. But I think that that's a great tool for finding auditions, kind of when you're first getting started. Yeah. So sorry, a little bit of water there. So what we're going to jump into now, so we've got auditions, where to find those auditions, but now let's kind of start to talk about what you want going into an audition room, kind of like building your arsenal of things that you want to have as an auditioning actor. And the first thing I want to talk about is kind of building your monologue repertoire. So I think you want to have multiple monologue options, because there's always times in a room where someone will say, what else you got? And you never want to say, I just had the one monologue that I prepared for this. Always come prepared with multiple options. There was one time where I felt like maybe they were just trying to have fun with me, but like I ended up doing 5 monologues in an audition. They just said, "What, do you have anything else? Show me something else." And I was like, "Yeah, great. Let's do this and this and oh yeah, I've got this." And I, kind of pulled it out of the back of my brain. So always come prepared with multiple monologues. And I think a great way to build your monologue repertoire, at least to get started, um, is I think there's 4 monologues that you can kind of start with. You can have a classical and a contemporary. Contemporary meaning something new, and classical meaning Shakespeare or something older. It doesn't always have to be Shakespeare, but I think if you're going to go with a classical like Moliere or Marlowe or something, or even like a Greek monologue, if you have one of those, also have a Shakespeare monologue, because most of the time when people are talking about classical monologues, they're talking about Shakespeare, but you don't always have to have Shakespeare. Or you don't always have to use Shakespeare, you can use something else, but have Shakespeare available to you as well. And then the other thing you want is you want a funny and a dramatic. And so I think what you do is have a funny and a dramatic contemporary monologue and a funny and a dramatic classical monologue. And that's a great place to start your monologue repertoire. And then you can kind of keep adding things if you find things that you really like. You can kind of keep adding those in. But I think that's a great place to start. You want to have things that show off the different sides of you, the things that that are you to show off your greatest skill set. You don't always want to have something that's just a real stretch for you, because people will go, well, why did they pick that monologue? Didn't fit them at all. Why did they pick that? And you don't ever want somebody, saying that. But you can pick something that maybe is a little off kilter. If you know that you bring something new and fresh to it, use it, showcase that. But also keep in mind when you're picking these monologues, the goal of auditioning is never to make the people in the audition room feel uncomfortable. I've seen this plenty of times where you pick something where you're just screaming the whole time, and you may act it really, really well, but you're not just showcasing your acting ability. You're showcasing that you're not, it's not just like, hey, I'm a good actor. You don't want people to say, oh, he's a good actor, but maybe he's a little insane, and I don't know if I want to actually work with that. So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing it. How you present yourself in a room with those monologues can help give a sense of who you are as an actor and who you are as a collaborator, which I think is always something you really want to do when you're bringing yourself into that room. So just keep that in mind. Don't ever try to make someone feel uncomfortable with the audition pieces you're picking, which means like don't writhe around on the floor and be very overtly sexual just for the sense of doing something risque. Like make sure you're doing things for a specific reason, and a reason that's not going to make people feel really uncomfortable. That being said, you want to go in and be yourself, showcase yourself. Don't let your nerves and your feelings about being nervous get in the way of having a really good audition. Go and be present with the people that are in the room. Yeah. And so that's what we're going to talk about now is you've got your monologues. Now you're going to go into an audition room. Here's some things that I think are really important to keep in mind as you're doing that. Always be prepared. Don't ever try a new monologue that you just started memorizing a day ago. Come in with stuff that you feel comfortable with, you feel prepared with. That way, when you have nerves, they're not going to get in the way of that monologue being successful, because you know it. It's in your bones. You're ready to do it. Come in there and be present in the room. I am guilty of this on so many occasions. When you get nervous in a room, sometimes you forget to look at the people who are auditioning you. You're just focused on doing your piece and doing it well, that you don't actually connect with the other people in the room. And that's one of the main goals of your audition, is to connect with these people across from you and make a real connection. And they go, I really want to work with that person. So don't forget to make eye contact with the people in the room and engage with them in a really genuine way. Just try to walk into a room and pretend like these people are old friends of yours and that you're ready to be in here and have a good time with them and interact with them like you would be in a rehearsal. That way you're not going to let those nerves get in the way and really sabotage what kind of great audition you have prepared. Um, so you walk into the room, make eye contact with people, say hi. If they start a conversation, you know, talk with them. I've seen plenty of times where someone will walk in and they'll say, hi, my name is blah, 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 and I'm going to be doing these pieces. And it just shows off those nerves. If it looks like they want to have a conversation, then let them have a conversation with you. And that's great. But then when you walk in, take a breath, take in the room, be present in the room. And then you can introduce your pieces, introduce yourself. If you're working with an accompanist, if it's a musical audition, you can go over and give them your music and talk about the tempo that you want the song to go at. And then, and then come back over and again, say hi to everybody in the room again once you've done that, and then move forward with your audition. They are always, the auditioners, what they're looking for when they have people coming into the room is they want someone to come in and show them what they're looking for. So never try to be what you think they want you to be. Pick a point of view that you have on the audition material, on your monologues, or on, show them what the best version of this thing is that you can give them. Don't try to figure out what it is they're looking for, because almost without fail, you will not succeed in trying to guess what it is they want. They're trying to be convinced that someone coming into the room is what they're looking for. So go in and show them the best version of you, and chances are that's going to give you the best opportunity. And the other thing it does is it kind of takes the disappointment out of it at the end. You'll still be disappointed, but you'll go, well, they just weren't looking for me. They weren't looking for what I was bringing. They were looking for what somebody else was bringing. And it's not like, oh, I guessed wrong with what they wanted. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to do that. So just take it out of the equation. Something else when you're in the room. I talked about an accompanist and going in with an accompanist. There's somebody else sometimes that is in the room. You'll see the casting director, the director, sometimes producers from the theater, or from a film that you're working on. Those people will be in a room. But somebody who I think often gets forgotten, but is the most important person in a room sometimes, is the reader. And I talked about I've been a reader in auditions before. A reader is somebody when you get a side, which is usually like a scene from a play or a movie, that they'll give you ahead of time and you've come in prepared for. They'll have a reader reading the other character in that scene with you. And here's a number one no-no. Don't ever not act to that reader. You always want to use the person who's there, because that's what acting is about. It's about personal connection. So connect with that person. It gives you an opportunity to play off of somebody. And a lot of times that reader's been sitting in the room, and the way they're playing the scene might give you some hints and clues into what it is the director's looking for. So always be using that person. And when you're done, whether it's the accompanist, the people auditioning you in the room, or the reader, you always want to say thank you. It was so great to audition for you, or whatever you want to say to show your own personal touch. But always thank everybody, including that reader, especially that reader, because that reader is there to help make your audition even better. So acknowledge them for that. I think it's a great thing to do. Again, breathe and have fun in the room. I had a teacher who used to say, hey, an audition's just a chance to act on a Thursday. So take that and keep that in mind, and take that and use that. Like, it's not do or die, these auditions. It's a chance to do what you love to do. It's a chance to act. So take that and use it and enjoy it, and never apologize for the work that you're doing. Just have fun. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about having an accompanist in the room, and that's for musical theater auditions. If you're a musical theater actor, there's some things that you should know, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We talked about monologues, but when you're a musical theater actor, you want to have songs available to you to sing in an audition room. And you're going to need to have a book of songs. And it's important to have something that's kind of that spans all the genres of music. You want to have a bunch of different things. And I found a really great resource online that had some things listed. We just put it up here, and I'll kind of go through some of them with you. These are some great ways to kind of, when you're first building your book of songs that you want to have, this is a great resource of things that you want to have in that book. You want to have 2 contrasting golden age or pre-1960s musical theater songs. 2 contrasting pop rock songs, anything that's, Guns N' Roses, or, any type of pop, Lady Gaga, or, something like that, something that shows off your pop or rock skills. And it can be from a musical or some contemporary music. You want to have 1 to 2 new musical theater songs that's any songs kind of post 2000s that are in musical theater. You want to have something from a big mega musical, kind of showcase your belting, and that you can sing something from one of the big musicals, Defying Gravity or something of that sort. You want to have a 50s, 60s song, a folk country song. I think it's always good to have something of Sondheim's in your book, because he's a very specific type of musical theater. And I also just think Sondheim's the best on a personal note. Have something that's a specialty of yours. If you have a specialty with your voice, something that you're really good at. If you're an opera singer, have that, and have something to showcase that in your book. If you're a really good R&B singer, have something that showcases that. Or if you're a good jazz singer, anything, or you're a yodeler and you want to showcase that you can yodel, have that in your book. And also pick your favorite song and have that in your book, because I think, and this is going to go to something that I want to talk about next, as far as when you're singing and what songs you pick, kind of a big thing that I see people do wrong, that I think you should kind of correct. So have those songs in your book, but kind of going back to like picking your favorite song, the reason I say that is because there's an emotional connection to your favorite song. And you enjoy singing it, we know you like it, and that you can feel that connection. And I think it's a big misstep that a lot of people use when they're first, or even when they've been doing it a long time, is that they pick these songs that they know showcase their voice really well, and they pick these great pop songs, and then, they do their runs and everything's great. But I think that sometimes, and I'll tell one of my favorite audition stories. It was my very first musical theater audition story, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about. But a lot of times people forget to act. They just think about, make this song sound good. I want to showcase how good my voice is. But in musical theater, that's half the battle, is singing it well. The other half is acting it well and showing that you can act while singing. And I'll share my example of my first musical theater. I went in and I auditioned for the Full Monty. And it was this regional theater. And I went in there and I was like, okay, it's my first professional musical theater audition. Okay, let's do this thing. And I went in there and I sang my song, and I was just so focused on singing it so well. And I finished and I was like, I sang that really good. I sang that really good. Yeah, that sounded good. Okay, great. The director said to me, oh, Jake, you have a beautiful voice. Let's try that one more time, and let's act it this time. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's a good note. Yeah, I'll act it this time. And I did it again. I sang it well, but then I was connected to it, and I made those emotional connections that go along. I acted the song. I ended up booking the part. And it's something that I think gets forgotten sometimes, and it shouldn't, is the acting is as important as the singing. So don't forget that. Sound good, but also act well. I want to give you guys a resource if you're a musical theater actor. This is a place I kind of go to. Again, it costs money, but there's a bonus to using the site to find sheet music. Because when you go into an audition, you need to have the sheet music for the piano player to play the accompaniment. Musicnotes.com is really fantastic. Again, it costs money, but the really nice thing is, if you're somebody like me who doesn't play the piano and can't kind of accompany themselves, and you don't have somebody readily available, especially now during COVID when we're kind of just at home, you not only get the sheet music, but they also give you kind of a synthesized piano accompaniment to go along with the music. So that way you can practice it at home and you're able to hear that piano music before you go in and practice it. So you're not just like listening to, the Broadway recording of a song and singing along to that. You can sing it without anybody else's voices, just listening to the piano music. Another good resource for that is if you go to YouTube, I would say most songs, there's a lot of people who put karaoke piano tracks of songs on YouTube, and you can use that to kind of help if you have a song and you want to have piano music without having to listen to an actual recording of somebody else's voice, so you can just sing it by yourself. That's another resource you can kind of use. Something to keep in mind when you're choosing songs, aside from picking ones that you can act really well and sing really well, is it's important to be brutally honest with what your voice sounds like and what your voice is capable of. Not everybody can hit that, high E. Not everybody can sing Defying Gravity and sing it successfully. You need to pick songs that showcase your voice well. You also want to pick things that incorporate your personality, something that showcases your sense of humor, something that showcases your creativity, like a really interesting reimagining of a song. Also, if you play an instrument, a lot of times they'll ask for it, but like pick a song and have it ready that you can accompany yourself on the guitar with or mandolin with, or, pick something that you can showcase that skill set. You want to have something as well, and I didn't have this in the list of things to keep in your book, but every once in a while you'll wake up and you'll have a really early audition and your voice isn't feeling well, maybe you're a little sick, and you can't hit those notes that you normally hit. Have a song available that you can sing even when you're not feeling well, that you can still sing really well, that kind of sits in the middle of your range, and you feel like you can knock it out of the park no matter how you're feeling. It's a good way to kind of give yourself a way to idiot-proof your audition. So even if you're not feeling well, you can still have a good audition. So sorry, I lost my place. Hold on one second. Okay, yeah, here we go. Again, pick the songs that are going to showcase you and showcase that you're a good actor. But the most important thing is to go in, even if you're not a great singer, if you go in and tell a story with your song, and you tell it well, it's going to be captivating. You might be surprised by what kind of work you can get doing that. So there, we've talked about monologues, we've talked about songs. Now let's get into some of the logistical things that you will bring into the room with you. First thing we're going to talk about is your resume. Now, your resume is a conversation starter and an introduction to you and the work you've done and the people you've worked with. You want to make all of the information on your resume easy to locate. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you two resumes. First, I'm going to show you one of my early resumes, which I don't think was successful, and then I'll show you a second one that I think works a little bit better. So first we'll look at the one of my first resumes, and I'll tell you what I think is wrong with it. So as you can see here, I've got all this information on the resume that I think the information's great, but it's not easy to read. As you can see, nothing is lined up on that resume. It's hard to find where the theater is and where are the directors, what theater did he work at, and you've got to really search to find that. And that's because, that was all done with like a space bar trying to line everything up the best I could. And it just doesn't look clean. It's hard to read and it's hard to find the information. Now, if we move to the resume that I currently have, I'll talk about why this works a little bit better. And I think you can see the difference between the two. And here's what I did to kind of help make them a little more successful. So if you look, I've used kind of lines and spacing to kind of help separate the different categories. So that way people's eyes can jump from category to category to category. Okay, there's theater, there's film TV. Okay, there's his education and training, and there's his special skills. Something else I did is, and this is going to be your best friend when you're writing your resumes in Microsoft Excel or in whatever other, computer program you use to write out your resume. There should be a tab where you can put tabs in each category. And what it's going to do is it's going to line everything up. So if you look, all of the roles I've played are lined up. All of the production companies or theaters I've worked at are lined up. It's easy to read. It's easy to see all the directors and look through and see which directors I've worked with. Has he worked with directors more than once? Great. All of the places I've trained are in bold. It helps their eye jump there. And then if they want to see who I worked with, they can look at that separately. Then up at the top, and here's something that kind of goes with your branding. If you ever build a website, you're going to pick colors, you're going to pick a way that things look, and probably a font. Keep that consistent. Like what the font I use for my name at the top of the resume is the font that I use on my website. I use the same font. I use the same colors on both my website and it just shows that you kind of have gone above and beyond, and there's a certain level of professionalism that I think makes it really jump off the page. Some other things that I kind of want to point out in your resume that I think help set it apart and also will help you succeed is special skills. Make sure you actually put things down that you are exceedingly good at. Just to kind of give an example, I used to have whistling on my resume because I feel like I can whistle most songs. I'm a decent whistler. And I used to have whistling on my resume, and somebody said, "Yeah, can you whistle for me?" And so I did. And he goes, "That shouldn't be on your special skills. If you can like blow my eardrums out with a tremendous loud whistle, if you can do something that is different than what other people can do, then put that down. If you're good at stage combat and you've taken classes, put that down. But like if you say like, well, I sometimes talk in a British accent, so I'll put British down as my special skills. If you haven't actually worked on it and you're not actually proficient at it, don't put it down there. But what you can do, like on my resume, I put down that I have a good ear and a quick study with dialect work. I could also put down, I've worked specifically with Cockney, Standard British, Irish, German. I've worked in shows and worked on those. So I could put those specific dialects down, but then also let them know that a skill set of yours is learning new dialects. So then they know that, but then you haven't set the bar saying like, well, I can do a Russian accent. I'm really pretty okay at it. And you've never actually worked on it before. Just make sure you're putting those skills down. Another thing you see up at the top is, again, I said that the resume is kind of a conversation starter. So I have this thing, the collaborative is up in the top right corner of the resume. And it's just a co-op that I belong to of actors. And we, do classes and, different casting directors come in. And a lot of the casting directors in LA know this group. So it's a great conversation starter. Like, oh, you remember? That's right. I do remember you. I was in that class. You were in that class that I taught. It's a great conversation starter. So I decided to put it up there. But I think another thing you can do, and I do have a resume where I take that off. Another thing you can do is if you, and we'll talk about headshots in a minute, but if you have a headshot that looks different than your regular headshot, like for me, I've got a headshot without a beard. Sometimes I'll put a headshot up in that top corner so they can see a different look that you're giving. And then you also want to put your contact info, or if you're lucky enough to have representation, put the representation's contact info up there, make it easy to read. You also want to put your vocal range. If you're a singer, put your vocal range down in there. And any unions you may belong to, you want to put on your resume. If you're Actors Equity, SAG-AFTRA, AGVA, any of those different unions, put those on there so that they're aware that you're a part of an actors union, because they'll get better consideration for some jobs, and some jobs may not be union, so they'll want to know whether they can hire you or not. So that's your resume. So there we go. So next thing I want to talk about is headshots. Now, headshots are something that everyone kind of has a different opinion about. So this is my opinion on headshots. Take it as you will. This is from what I've gathered from working with a lot of people and getting a lot of different people's feedback about my own headshots and seeing a lot of my friends' headshots. Here's what I think makes a successful headshot. The most important thing about your headshot is your eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul, is what they say. And so that's what's really going to draw people in, is being able to see into their eyes and really like see who they are. So make sure your eyes are visible and you're not like looking away. That's like a great model shot. But when you're doing a headshot, you want it to be right here, and you want to be looking into the camera, and you want to be saying like, hey, here I am. So eyes are the most important part of your headshot. The photo should look like you most days. What you're going to look like going into that audition room every day should be what your headshot looks like. I would say don't really take glam shots. Don't overdo your makeup. You'd never want to walk into an audition room and have somebody look at the headshot and have to double take to see if they've got the right headshot, because that means it doesn't really look like you. So make sure that the product you're bringing into the room is the product that's on that page. That way, if they're looking through them later in the day, they don't go, who was this? I don't remember who this person was. Oh, that was but his head is shaved now. He doesn't have, the curls anymore. Oh, why does he have this head? So I know it costs more money, and being an actor can be expensive at times, but if you're changing a look and it's going to be that way for a while, you may want to get a new headshot, especially if you're going to be actively seeking out auditions. And again, I think getting headshots with different looks in them is totally fine. If you feel like you play nerdy really well, you can take a headshot. with your glasses on, as long as it looks like you, with your hair pulled back, glasses, whatever you want to do, like you can have different looks. And I think that's fine. Like I said, I have a set of headshots with my beard, and I have a set of headshots without a beard. That way, if I'm without a beard, I can send those headshots out. And then when I grow it out, I have those available and ready for me. So it's okay to have different looks that you think, especially when you're deciding what kind of roles you're right for. Maybe get headshots in those, if you've got a couple different categories. Pick out a couple different headshots that kind of suit those different looks. And most headshot photographers will give you an opportunity to have a couple different looks. Ooh, okay. A question just popped up for me, and I'll go ahead and answer it now. If you're young and not working, or older and not working due to COVID, how do we get them more affordably? I think we're living in a good time to get headshots. Headshots used to be crazy, crazy expensive. And I think now there's a lot more people taking headshots, and so there's a lot more affordable headshots out there. Do your research. Ask people who did their headshots. Ask what they paid. Or worst case scenario, get a friend with a camera and just keep in mind good lighting, make it look like you, and take a whole bunch of shots, and you probably can find a couple that will work until you have a little bit more money to make it a little better. I would say that when you're looking at headshots, kind of the price range that you'll probably end up finding is like $200 to $300 all the way up to $1,000. There isn't like a stated price that I would say is good. But another thing is like check in with friends. Maybe there's friends who are interested in photography and they've got a nice camera. Find those friends. I've had plenty of friends who are trying to build up kind of a repertoire of photos that they can kind of show off, what they've done. And so they're like, hey, I'll do headshots for you for $50. Or, so like ask around, like there's always places. And again, worst case scenario, iPhones are great nowadays. Have a friend go out, take some shots with your iPhone in portrait mode, and you'll probably be able to find something that will work temporarily. But I do have to say that when you find the right headshot photographer, you can tell the difference between really exceptional and passable. So if you don't have a lot of money now, there's plenty of ways to get decent headshots for a cheap price. So there's that. Okay, so that is kind of all the predetermined info that I was going to throw at you. But I think here's something I want to say. It's a lot of info I threw at you, but I think work hard, be purposeful in the decisions that you make, and it will really help you find success in this industry. Be true to yourself and have fun doing it because it's acting. And so that's all I've got. And so I think we'll bring Vietka back in and do some last minute questions.
Thanks, Jake. That was super informative. And I'm glad you whistled for us. That was actually a really good question about the headshots. And I guess we have some younger viewers. And so if they don't have a lot of experience with audition rooms, how do they get that experience, that feel? Is there a mock-up kind of audition room that they could do?
I think you could definitely, I think out there, but again, this once again goes to spending a little bit of money. There's plenty of acting classes where you can get a chance to act in front of people. It's also something that's great if you don't have a resume. If you take some acting classes, it's something to put on a resume that you've worked with this acting teacher, you've done this. I think that's a good resource getting started, and it'll get you comfortable too. There isn't the pressure of it being an audition for something that I'm trying to book. So I think taking a class is always a really great way to get started. And then just practice in front of family. That's another way is, find something you're working on and work on it and then do it for your family. You're doing it in front of people. It's a great way to work things out. And they know you too. They know you too. They can help say like, yeah, that really showcases you well, I think, if you've got family who are willing to be honest, which thankfully I do.
Or you're like, no, can you do a little bit better? A little brutally honest.
Mm-hmm.
for those who are a little more experienced, right? They started acting since they were younger.
Yeah.
How do they know what to keep and what not to keep on their resumes? Because it should stay one page, right?
Yes. Oh, thank you. That was something I forgot to say. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes. Never have your resume be more than one page. I would say more times than not, people get ignored because they're like, why do they have this 3-page resume here? Keep everything to one page. And another thing I didn't mention about the resumes, and this reminded me of it, is your headshots should be printed in 8x10, and your resume should be stapled on the back of them. So the paper should also be 8x10. So you can print in the corner, kind of like an 8x10 on a regular piece of paper, and cut the edges so that it matches up, and then you can staple them together. Another little insider trick that I like to use is I buy a ream of paper at Staples, and for like a couple bucks, they'll cut the ream into 8x10, and then you can just put the 8x10 paper into your printer and print out resumes that are already 8x10, and it makes it look a little cleaner.
Can I ask you why 8x10 and not 8.5x11? Or
It's,
8x11?
I think it's just the standard of what the headshots are, and so it just looks more professional if your resume matches what the headshot is printed at. It looks a little funky when you staple it and the piece of paper is way bigger. It just doesn't look as good. It makes it look like you know what you're doing if it's lined up.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Another resume question. Do you need different resumes for different genres, like a comedy one, a drama one?
No, I would say for comedy and drama, no. I do think if you're auditioning for TV and film, I think your TV and film credits should be at the top of your resume. And if you're auditioning for theater, your theater credits should be at the top of your resume. So it's easy to just kind of cut and paste those things and make 2 different resumes. But I think you should, whichever genre you're auditioning for, if you have a lot of credits, put the TV and film credits up top, theater credits up top if it's theater.
Another question is, if there is for the landscape for child actors or young actors and actresses, is it more forgiving now, so they should take more chances, or are they more forgiving when you're an adult, right? Because you know more people and you have more connections.
Here's what I would say is the important thing about being a child actor, and when I've seen successful auditions and when I've seen auditions that could have been better. The thing that I think always, and honestly, this transcends being a child or an adult, and I think it's true for both. Go in there and be yourself. I think there's a lot of child actors to kind of help with nerves. They'll go in and they'll even like memorize what they're going to say to introduce themselves, and it almost makes them feel robotic. Like, like I have memorized this thing. Hello, my name is Jake. I am this many years old, and I will be auditioning with this. And I think if you just go in and you're like, hey, how's it going? I'm here to have a fun time. I think that they're looking for somebody's personality, and then bring your personality into what your audition material is. And I think risks are always good. Always take risks. Just be smart about the kind of risks you're taking. Because like I said earlier, like you never want to make somebody uncomfortable in a room. Unless they give you a side that's really something that's like uncomfortable material, then they're asking for it. But don't bring in something that's really, really far out there to the point that it'll make somebody uncomfortable.
Okay, cool. I think we have time for one more question. And the lucky question is, if I'm starting my acting career, should I move to, say, LA or New York City? I think that's a popular question because, obviously we want to build up the artist industry here in San Diego, but a lot of people move to New York City, or a lot of casting comes out of New York City.
I'll tell you one thing, though. I have lived in New York and LA and San Diego, and I'm telling you, San Diego is a great place to start your career. There is a lot of really amazing opportunities at a lot of really amazing theaters. There's a lot of great theaters in San Diego, even the smaller ones that are really, really fantastic. And so I would say to start your career, if you already live in San Diego, start auditioning here. Because you can build a resume with notable theaters, notable directors, and then you can jet one way or the other. If you're interested in doing theater, I think starting in San Diego is great. Eventually, you want to move to New York. I think if you want to get into film, either New York or LA is great. There isn't a huge film scene in San Diego. Um, so yeah, I would also say that if you want to pick New York or LA and you're first starting off and it's just between those two, this is my personal opinion. This is what I did. I would pick New York City. I think it's a little more kind to people first starting out. Um, I think it's a little less daunting, and I think that the community of artists there is, at least when I was there in New York. I mean, that was 8 years ago now. Was a little more inviting, and I think I was able to find kind of a group where LA is more spread out, and sometimes it's harder to kind of find a group of people. I think New York lends itself to that, so that's nice when you're first getting started.
But that rent, oh my God.
Well, LA is just as bad.
Yeah. It's just when you're starting out. I remember my sister went to school in SF and she was all like, it sucks. And I go, that's because you don't have any money.
Find a lot of roommates and split that rent up.
Be comfortable with invasion of personal space.
Exactly.
Oh, well, this has been great. I really like the vein of advice where you're like, just be yourself, because eventually, especially in San Diego, right? But in any case, I feel like the world is smaller than you think it is. So if you say one thing and someone finds out that you're lying about it on your resume, the word will come out,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had students apply for programs, and that's happened.
Yeah, I also just think I think the thing that's really going to get you hired more times than not is you and your personality. I mean, being a good actor is helpful, being a good singer is helpful, but I mean, like, if you seem like somebody that people want to work with and the other work is good, I think that your personality can set you over the top sometimes. And it's what you are bringing into the room, not what you think they want. Like, that's the thing that's going to set you apart from everybody else, because you are what you have. That's your greatest strength, is yourself. So bring that, and that's what's going to get you the job.
Thanks, Jake. I'm sure our younger viewers would really love that, because it is daunting, right? Especially if you're just getting started.
Yeah.
And so this is really good advice. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
All right. Well, if anybody has more questions, I'm sorry we ran out of time today, but if you look below, you can contact Jake personally at jakemilgardacting@gmail.com. You can also email us at the Globe, and let us
You
know
go to
what
my
you think.
website too, which is jakemilgard.com. There's a place to contact me there as well.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jake. Thank you, Old Globe, for letting us host this. We are taking a break for next week since it's Labor Day weekend. We all get a holiday, and we'll be back with a 2.0 version of this that's geared more toward TV and film. And so tune in on September 12th. We'll see you then. Enjoy your week.